All right, guys, greetings from the heavy metal Citadel, you heavy metal heathens. I am your host, Chort. Chernoglav recently slipped on a banana peel inside the Citadel and he hurt himself, so he won't be available today. But luckily, I possess the qualities of both of us, so I'm just going to talk for everyone. We are here today with a very special guest in a completely different time zone. Little Wolf, Wvlfgar from Isataii, if I hopefully pronounced that correctly. How you doing, bud? How are you?
Pretty good, man. How's everything today?
Really good. It's what is it? It is now 4:46 in London, and you are in, if I'm not mistaken, Los Angeles.
Yeah, we got 8:46 over here.
8:46 in the morning. Oh, mate, sorry. I'm sorry, but thank you for doing this.
No, not at all. I'm under. Yeah. It's a tie. So you're basically close. It's just at the end, everybody kind of trips out that it's two eyes. But yeah,
it's a tie.
You're good.
Okay. But I have a question about the band name later, but we'll come to that. Anyways, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for doing this. I love to get USBM bands on here. We recently even had Black Braid. He's a new solo project from New York. Yeah. So yeah, tell us a little bit more, mate. Tell us a little bit more about the band, how it came about.
Well, first I want to say thank you for having me on here. Isataii is completely honored to be part of this and be part of Heavy Metal Citadel. So first off, I appreciate that. Number two, Isataii. Let's see. So we started back in 2021. At first, it was a one-man project, completely one-man. I did vocals, I did music for everything. Later on, I realized that I did not want to do everything. I didn't mind doing the promoting, the writing the music, but just I felt like vocals and lyrics just should have been taken care of by someone else. So luckily, in the beginning, it was my little brother, Randy Red Cedar. He did amazing vocals. He did vocals for me for our first releases. There was a demo, which was called A Raven's Watch, that had about 2 songs on there. And then there was Horns of Power, which was the EP last year, which had 5 songs, and then we did a full-length Man of Sin, and that consisted of about 8 songs, I believe. And he did a great job. We loved working with the guy, really talented. But then he started to feel that it wasn't his thing to, he just wasn't feeling it anymore. A lot of people, get out of it. They like it for a moment, and then they just want to pursue something else. Oh, that's cool, bro. Do what you got to do. And then after that, what did I do? Oh, so I was just thinking about, how can I continue this band? Because I didn't want to let it go. So luckily, I was already in the process of writing another full length, which we released this year, called Invoking in Darkness. And that had a really good Hungarian friend named Paul. He's an amazing, talented vocalist. And I was lucky enough to have him on 6 of my songs. Also, I had a really good Swedish black metal friend from the band Hellgoat named Skull, who did the last 2 songs on that album, and he crushed it, just an amazing job. And after that, I realized that I wanted a permanent member. I didn't want someone just for hey man, I need something recorded. Yeah, of course. So luckily, I had done a few tryouts, and the one that stuck was my current singer named Tyler Lopez, which his alias is Lord T, and he's been doing a lot of singles with me, and he's working with me on releasing a full length next year. And the singles consist of songs like Shadows of Desolation, A Spirit's Death, Cursed Existence. Everything that's on YouTube right now is him. I just wanted to put him out there so people can, get used to the official sound of Isataii. And yeah, so we're just trying to grind right now. We're just doing a bunch of things, a lot of promotion, a lot of interviews. You guys, let's see, there's merch, there's just a bunch of stuff happening this year, which is really good. Invoking in Darkness has had a lot of success and attention, so I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you said you're basically on the grind, and I mean, looking at how much stuff you've done in the last 2 years, man, it's a lot. So I mean, you really have been putting on the grind. I mean, how much do you have? Is it 3 full-length albums out now?
Okay, so no, there's 2 full lengths. So there's Man of Sin, which was the 2021 full length, and there's the Invoking in Darkness, which is yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, it's still an amazing amount. So was it through like sort of the COVID period where you just started like writing all this stuff and just making it come together? Is that why you've been able to sort of push this out so quickly?
You know, honestly, a lot of people tell me that, and I'm gonna say yes because there was a period of time when there wasn't any live shows, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was like, I want to keep writing music. I want to keep putting more music out into the world. I need this stuff out. So yeah, COVID definitely during the lockdown, I just had a lot of creative time and creative effort to put in. So that's what happened. The band
Wow.
was created.
Yeah. Putting in the work, man. I love that. And so
Always.
correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong on this, but the name itself, is it because I looked it up and apparently
Hmm.
it could be Comanche for wolf or coyote.
Hmm.
But there's also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a Comanche warrior slash medicine man with the same name. So I'm just curious where that
Hmm.
sort of that name came about because I think it might even be spelt a little bit differently in its like original Comanche. I
Yes,
might be
yes.
wrong.
No, you're completely right. Yeah. So Isataii was the name that my father had originally given to me. So there was Little Wolf, right? So my dad, I told him, how do you translate that to Comanche? Because Comanche is the people that I come from. And he always told me Isataii, and I was like, okay. So then I looked it up, and I just wanted to get more information on it, and I saw that yes, it was a medicine man who I believe had the power to project bullets in battle, and I was like, oh wow, like I didn't even know anything about that. And I guess the medicine had died when someone had, I believe, killed a crow, and then the medicine, the little wolf or Isataii, was just gone, and it just died off like that. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's both wolf and it's both the medicine man, and I believe there's two variations to spelling it. But I chose the one I did because it just, I don't know, I felt for me it stuck better, and I remember it from my childhood, so I decided to just, go with that and bring my culture into it as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I mean, that's why I was, when we had that written interview with Black Braid as well. It's just so badass when you converge with black metal and Native American culture.
Yep.
Like they go so fucking well
Definitely.
together. And it's like, why am I not hearing more of this? There's so many fucking good people out there that should be doing like stuff like this. So one question I did have then was in terms of sort of the songs you've written, because you've written songs like Battalion of Wolves and Scorching, I think, Warfare. Would you say
Yeah.
that though the lyrical content is a little bit more primarily focused on sort of war, or do you think like you've added in these aspects of sort of the Native American culture and sort of heritage?
Okay, so I love that question. That's amazing. So basically, in the beginning of Isate, definitely it was very, very culture oriented as far as the lyrics went. My brother really stepped into the history books and started reading a lot of my dad's Native American Comanche history books, and he started just really projecting that into his lyrics, like Scorching Warfare, Battalion of Wolves. The wolf is obviously a very sacred animal to the Native American people, especially to the Comanche. I know to a lot of other tribes as well. I know other cultures also honor the wolf, but my brother decided like, hey, let's base our lyrics off of our culture because not enough bands are doing that. And people kind of fall into this stigma where they believe, okay, so there's Norwegian black metal, there's Swedish black metal, there's a lot of European black metal, but which I love because all of us get inspiration from. But I believe your heritage, your very own heritage, you don't have to be European in order to be part of this music. It's universal. Anybody could do it. And I believe that, like you said, more Native American and indigenous people should be involving and incorporating their culture into this music because it's showing our versions of it. Like we were inspired, but now we're taking it to a whole different level and representing a whole different community that has kind of been just glanced over, but never really given the proper recognition that it deserves.
Yeah, 100%.
But
And I mean,
now,
sorry, go
yeah,
on.
as far as the lyrics goes now, no, you're good, you're good. So as far as the lyrics go now, I believe now we're doing more of like a self-reflection and a reflection upon the world of how it is now. And with the new stuff I've been putting out, we were focusing more on, depression and the spiritual aspect of a person's pain and suffering, and channeling that into the music, and just viewing the world for what it's becoming. Because I believe after the Native American people, kind of lost their way in the beginning, the world kind of just went, just started diminishing and started just tearing itself apart. And in order to really represent this, I wanted to put it into my lyrics, into music, which Lord T has been doing a great job at it. So yeah, the lyrical aspect did change a lot, but I believe it's just another strand from where we're at, because we're still doing the culture and the indigenous people, but we're trying to see it from how everything is suffering because the Native American way is not really the way anymore for this day and age in society, which is pretty sad.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, in terms of sort of the themes that sort of rise up in black metal, I mean, I feel like Native Americans live that day in, day out, whether that's things like, dealing with depression, or all these cycles of sort of anger and oppression, war, literally. Like, I mean, you guys firsthand, I would say, would be like, a peoples that just doesn't give up. They'll fucking fight for everything, from whether that's, protesting against, pipelines being put through literally your neighborhoods.
Yep.
To rock, just surviving. Exactly, Standing Rock. Yep. To just literally surviving and not being like wiped out by invading hordes, which is literally what you sing about in black metal. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, and that's why I think we're starting to see this sort of rising up of sort of Native American black metal, and even metal in general, not even just black metal, but death as well.
No, I know, yeah, yep,
yeah. So it's very, very refreshing. Lovely. So I am curious with that in mind, because I mean, I know a lot of sort of in my past sort of Native American friends, they're not huge fans of sort of black metal. They either go into sort of pop or hip hop, and usually metal.
Definitely.
Like the most extreme they'll go is like maybe some pop rock or something. So how did you get into black metal? Yeah, I mean, especially in LA, mate. Like LA is like, I love America, and when you think of America, you think thrash, you think death, but not necessarily black metal. Which, I mean, I think that should definitely be changing, because there's so many great American black metal bands now.
Definitely.
But how did you sort of get into it all?
Okay, so with my story, I believe when I was, let me see. So I grew up around Native American culture a lot. I would go to powwows. My dad just always had it around me. And I wasn't really into my culture growing up, I'll be honest. And, every time I did go to powwows, I did see a lot of Native American people, following the gangster thing, doing the hip hop thing, the pop thing, just everything that was in. And I never really saw a lot of metal coming up from the indigenous people. So, I always wondered that. And at the time when I first started going to powwows, I was really into like tagging, and I was like your little hoodlum or whatever. And then I think, what I'm saying, and then 6th grade came along. My dad took me to my first Slayer concert, and that's the first real heavy experience. I was very
so your dad took you to Slayer.
My dad took me to Slayer.
Your dad is badass.
Yeah. And then after that show, I can honestly say that show changed my life. I went back home and I was like, I don't want to dress hip hop anymore. I don't want to follow this anymore. I found my calling. So I started drifting into bands like, I don't know, what was it? Morbid Angel. There was a lot of death metal, Immolation for sure. Great band. Sepultura, just a lot of that heaviness. But like you said, there wasn't any Native American that was like, oh man, like you got to check out this indigenous band. So that's where I kind of lost touch with my culture. My dad would tell me like, oh, like Jesse Pintado from Terrorizer, he's indigenous. And I was like, oh, that's dope. But it's only these few guys that they point out. There's not really any solid culture, and emphasized bands. And, I was just like, okay, well, I was just following the music little by little. And then all of a sudden high school came and I got introduced to black metal. I had a friend named Albert Fuentes, aka Sin. This guy was just full blown like, hey, bro, check out Dimmu Borgir, check out Emperor, check out Immortal. And I was loving it. I was like, yeah, I was just taking it all in. But again, the indigenous culture was just not present. It was just all these European bands. And I was like, and then I started to think as my career began in black metal, because I joined a band called Necrium, and we were around in the kind of like the heyday of black metal in Los Angeles. This was back in '07, '08. Black metal was
Oh,
just
wow.
popping in Los Angeles. It was just, we had Nocturne, we had a band called Bestial Incarnation. Who else did we have? Spiculum, Moratis. We had a lot of great bands in the LA scene. And then after high school, I guess black metal started dying out. I started getting into other musics, and it was just gone. You know, again,
Uh-oh.
the indigenous was just not there because there was no like there was no bands representing like, hey, indigenous people are black metal, you know, check it out. So there was
Yeah.
really nothing to involve my culture with. So then finally, you know, I decided to make a band where I was like, you know what? I know there's people out there doing this. There's indigenous people out there doing this. I want to make a name for our people because I feel like we have a lot of talent and we have a lot of spirit, and it's just too much just to get ignored. So I decided to make Isataii, and I was just like, let's just involve the people as much as possible. Let's try to get involved with other bands and just connect. And that's when I found Black Braid. Black Braid is a great representation of the Native American black metal. And I messaged him, I started talking to him, and we were both just kind of vibing off of each other, like, you know, just like, oh, dude, that's cool that you're indigenous. Oh, same, man, you know. And we started talking. I sent him a CD, and he promoted me. I promoted him, and it was just really great. Like, it was really refreshing to feel the presence of another Native American who's into black metal. And then all of a sudden, once we started finding each other, there started being these interviews coming up, like with you guys. And then there's another page that's really interested in interviewing us. I believe it's called Metal Cave Zine. They're focused on Native American as well, and they hit us up to do interviews. So it's like it's coming out there. We're getting out there slowly, but we're out there for sure. And we're just trying to reach out to people so they understand, like, hey, it's not just Europeans out there doing it now. It's the indigenous people who come from a very warlike background, like you said, you know, who have been through a lot and deserve to have the spirit flow through black metal, because black metal is a very spiritual, representational music.
100%,
So
mate. No, 100%.
yeah,
I mean, that's the perfect answer. You couldn't have summed it
I
up
know.
better
I
than
was
that,
like,
mate.
you know what? I
Honestly.
didn't want to talk too much, but it needs to be said. It just needs to happen.
No, mate. No, absolutely. I 100% agree. That's why I mean, given sort of the context of how rich the culture is, and what it
Mhm.
has to offer the black metal community, I'm shocked it took this long to sort of, you know, make its presence. I know partially why, but we'll talk about that later. But I did want to
Of
ask.
course.
I know you said, "Hey, I went to Slayer, my whole fucking life changed." But what are some of the biggest influences on the band specifically as you sort of evolved into a real sort of band?
Let's see. So you're talking about influences as far as like what inspirations come through writing the music, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I when I first got my start into black metal, the style of black metal that really called me was the black metal from Finland, which my first band started off as Sargeist, Satanic Warmaster, Horna. And when I heard that style, I don't know, for some reason, out of all the styles of black metal that I listened to, that style called me a lot. And it started happening to where anytime I'd pick up my instrument, riffs in that style started coming out. So I was like, wow, like, okay, so this is my style that I want to do. And when Isataii first started, the logo that we had, the first logo, was actually to pay homage to Sargeist. There were some people telling me like, hey man, you know, your logo looks a lot like Sargeist's logo, like you're kind of ripping them off. And they get this whole wrong impression. I'm like, man, you know what? I'm not ripping them off. I'm paying homage to them because my style originated with that style of black metal. And they were like, oh, well, we didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, man, all you got to do is ask. And, you know, for sure. Like, I believe that band deserves a lot of respect from me because if it wasn't for them, I don't feel like I would write the way I do. And then I started to branch out into another style. So that's when I decided, you know what? I did my thing. I paid homage to Sargeist. So let me get a new logo to represent a new era of Isataii. So that's where the main inspiration comes from for Isataii.
That's funny you should mention that, just because in terms of their name, I mean, it literally means coffin spirit. And I feel like it
Yeah.
embodies sort of Native American black metal coming back from sort of
Right.
not even
Exactly.
dead, but its spirit is literally coming alive, and that's hilarious. But the one thing I did want to touch on
Hmm.
that as well is like, I'm I've been guilty of being like a metal elitist in terms of, some people, like if you see something on Instagram and it's new metal and they're like, oh, look how extreme this is, and you're like, dude, it's new metal, relax.
Right. Right.
I'm guilty of that. I am. But in terms of bands sort of coming out and being inspired by other bands, it's so annoying when elitists are always like, oh, you ripped that off, or you ripped that off. It's like, dude, it's art. When you're paying homage to something, and I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10 people are gonna be like, yeah, it's because of this band, or it's because of this song. Like, they'll be honest with
Of
you. But the
course.
fact is, it might start as maybe a paying homage to a group, or just a tribute, but then it grows into
Hmm.
something bigger, which is what I feel like exactly what
Definitely.
you're sort of doing. So I mean,
Definitely.
as much as metal elitists say, I think that we need to sort of put a pause on all that shit and just let people sort of
Right.
go off what they feel is natural and what feels right, mate.
Yeah. In my opinion, I'm guilty of it as well. I'm not gonna lie. I'm the first person to call something out. I'm definitely like that, so I'm not even gonna argue with them. I'm on your team on that. But elitism can only go so far. I mean, if
Mm,
you're paying homage to something, we're all inspired by something. There's no way in the world that 100% originality is within you. Like, you putting out your version of things is originality, but there's always a version of it. It's not like, oh, I came up with this 100%. Like, no, man, you know what?
yeah,
It sounds original because I've never heard it, but I have heard similar. So it's
exactly.
not 100% yours, but it's not 100% theirs. We're all just in it together to create music, and it comes out the way it comes out. But as long as it's you representing it and you're adding your little flavor to it. To me,
Exactly.
my elitism goes to a point where it's like, I don't know, there's this trend of people, wearing things that they don't know about, and I'm very against that. I'm a first one to be a gatekeeper. I'll be honest with you. It's because, yeah, I music deserves its respect. Music deserves its proper representation. And if you're gonna be out there wearing a shirt and someone comes up to you, because I came from a time where you had to know what you were wearing. If you don't know the band you're wearing, I mean, I've had a friend who literally just got his ass kicked right there just for not even knowing a song from the shirt he was wearing.
Okay, so so
So,
so you're not happy about the Kardashians wearing the Slayer shirt?
oh my god, no, no, not at all. No, no,
Oh,
that's
no, it's
that's
hilarious.
terrible. That's terrible.
What's funny though
Yeah.
is because I know when Gary Holt wore that other shirt that said "Kill the Kardashians," and that fucking
Oh, that was great.
created this. Yeah, that was hilarious. It created a whole uproar on Instagram and on social media. But I mean, you are in LA. I mean, it's sort of ironic but very just that something pure would come out like that in a town, that tinsel town. People say there's a lot of phonies, but I think the fact that people are trying to get authentic music, like within black metal, is sort
Hmm.
of what is going to hopefully propel this to be even bigger, 10-20 years later on down the road. um
Right.
but yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, to be fair. And I even sometimes, like, I bash new metal because it's the lowest hanging fruit, and everyone bashes new metal. But I mean, I fucking listen
No,
to
of course. Yeah.
Sepultura.
I
I
mean,
literally listen to all the shit that I like, that I talk trash about now when I was younger,
right.
and it's
Right.
just part of evolving, I think. But yeah,
I mean,
no,
you just love the music, bro. That's it. You just love the music. I
love the
love the
music.
music. And when you love something, you take care of it, you treasure it, you protect it. And when you see people disrespecting it, it's like, no, man, you know what? You need to know what you're wearing. It's not a trend. It's not something that's out there like, hey, let me just dive into this real quick, look cool, and then just dip out. Like, no, you gotta really get in there, man. You gotta know your things.
And
You
it's
don't
funny
want
you
to be a
say that.
poser.
Exactly. You don't want to be a poser. I was literally just
Yeah.
about to say, in terms of how that kind of goes back to Native American culture and sort of the consumerism behind that, whereby,
Hmm.
people fucking, some multinational conglomerate making moccasins and charging it like fucking,
Oh my God.
50.
Yes.
Yeah. Or like combine, and they're saying, it's Apache, but it's Algonquin or some shit like that. Like, that
Yeah.
shit is literally the epitome of why I fucking hate things that come out and they're like, Kardashians wearing Slayer. Like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, why are you
Nope.
disrespecting
Nope.
it? It's a culture. Pay some fucking
Yeah. It
respect to
goes
it,
hand
or
in
don't.
hand. It's very cultural, very cultural. Music is cultural, you know, your heritage is cultural. And if you, it's like, you know, you defend the music the way you defend your culture. If, I mean, it's only taking, giving respect to it. And yeah, definitely at powwows, you see that a lot, you know, where people just want to be there to be part of it, to claim and to post on their little TikToks and their little, you know, social medias like, oh, I'm here, I'm doing this. But it's like, do you know what's happening there? Do you know what it's about? Do you know the representation of it? Because if you don't, then you kind of have no part there. And you should probably go find something that you're more connected to, not just as a phase, but something you're directly heritage linked to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, 100%, or at least learn about what the sort of, you know, the culture is about, or the challenges are about, and
at
go
least
support the people in the right way. Yeah,
definitely.
Sorry,
Definitely.
we took a detour. That shit fucking gets me heated.
It's
but
all
we took
good.
a detour. I did want to ask though, in terms of the sound, of the band, it's very raw, it's very primitive, it's black metal. What is your instrument setup right now? How do you get that sound, mate?
Okay, so for me, I went through a few guitar tones. I went through a few drum tones. But I realized you don't have to be super, what's that word? You don't have to be super produced, you know, because at the end of the day, black metal is a primitive music. Black metal is a war-based music. And as long as everything represents what you feel, that's all that matters. So with me, it's just I got my PV 6505 head, which cranks super hard, and I'm just like so happy with the aggression and the sound it comes. And then drums, I got a little Pearl drum electric kit that I kind of mess around on. So I use that, and I get some drum samples, and I kind of mess with it. And luckily, I've been able to really get everything I feel out through my instruments. Lord T, when he sends over his vocals, I don't know what his setup exactly is, but I know that every time he throws them out there, it sounds like war cries, like legit, like he's in battle, just, you know, throwing up the tomahawk and just ready to scalp someone, you know. So it's amazing. Yeah, so that's basically my rig rundown.
Brilliant. And how's it work in terms of the song creation process for you guys?
So I'll be at home. I'll pick up my guitar and I'll just, you know, I'm feeling it that day. Let's go, you know, and the spirit comes out, you know, the riffs come out. Once the riffs are out, I lay that down. Then the drums come in, you know, drum over that. Then after I'm done with everything and I do the volumes and the levels, I send it over to Lord T. And he just he comes up with the lyrics, sends the lyrics to me, and he tells me, what do you think? How do you feel about it? And, you know, most of the time he sends me over some things that really I relate to, and the music, you know, it just feeds off of. So I'm like, all right, yeah, let's use it. So he'll send them over, he'll record, and then that's how the song will get down. So it's a pretty fast process. It doesn't really take a long time when you got two people who know what they're doing and just have the same direction and state of mind that, you know, the band needs. So
yeah, wow, that's very streamlined. I love that approach. Just imagine having like fucking 5 people in a band that are scattered throughout the country trying to get them together. It's fucking I mean, we've talked to other bands like that and they're literally like, oh yeah, this guy lives like, you know, 30 kilometers away, this guy's another 50. It's just like, oh my god, that's fucking brutal, dude.
That's what I love about Isataii, is just the fact that it's a 2-man project, and it's less opinions but more opinions, if that makes any sense. Like, it's less people to deal with, but also between me and him, we both have the same direction, and usually we agree on everything. So it's not really, there's no controversy there. There's no, you know, disagreements. It's like, okay, bro, let's agree on one thing and that's it. And then it's easy. So
fucking brilliant. Okay, well, with that in mind, I did want to sort of turn it a little bit back to sort of location.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are in LA. I mean, like I said, there are great USBM bands. I mean, Leviathan kicks fucking ass. Absu, excellent.
Oh my god, definitely.
So fucking good. But I mean, you know, especially with the West Coast, often people are thinking about, you know, thrash, death. That's sort of the first thing that comes to mind. What is the LA black metal scene like these days? And especially more so even for sort of LA Native American black metal band, because I mean, I'm not that knowledgeable within sort of the Native American black metal community yet, but growing day by day. And I'm actually curious in terms of is there maybe Hispanic black metal that's coming out now that people are starting to get back to the roots?
Of course.
I mean, they're sort of coming out these days, especially in the US. What is it like on the ground?
Okay, so with LA has a very rich black metal history, and I feel like now there's more bands coming out that are representing that. Culturally, I'll be honest and say there's few out here. What do we have? We have Migrante Kutli. We have who else? We have a band called Maleficent. We also have a band called Winter Rise, and these bands represent the more, how would you say, like the more Mashika, the more Nawa black metal. But as far as Native American goes, like more like Plains natives, we don't have any. I believe I'm the only one holding it down right now in LA with the Plains Native American tribes. So I'm pretty happy about that. But I think there'll be more for sure once this comes out, once it's more exposed. The Plains tribes will definitely start clinging on. But we do have a good black metal scene out here, and I'll just drop a few names. We have what is there? Withermoon. There's Son of Leviathan. There's Cultus Profano. There's a few. We got a few black metal bands out here that are really holding it down, and I think it's just going to keep growing because I feel the scene is really getting bigger now with these bands.
Wow. It's funny you should mention that because you're sort of holding it down as a Comanche, Lord of the Plains. Who better than you guys to start it?
The Horsemen, man, the Horsemen.
That's right. Excellent. Okay, well, I mean, do you have any recommendations for black metal folk if they do come into LA to visit, whether that's sort of venues where the black metal community hangs out, where the good shows are going to be played at?
There's a lot of good shows happening right now at Bricks in downtown LA. That's usually where the domain is for black metal. So if you come down to LA, definitely look up Bricks. They're always hosting black metal shows like almost every other weekend. Hey War I believe is the promoter, really cool guy, really connected to Isataii. He represents us pretty well. So as far as that goes, yeah, just look up Bricks. You're for sure to find the black metal scene hiding in there somewhere.
Wow. Excellent. Okay, so we come to a fun part, I guess, of the episode, and that is the tour drink collab part. And that is basically name one band you want to tour with, one band you want to drink with, one band you'd want to collaborate with. Well, I have a feeling already because we talked to Black Braid and he said, I mean, you guys are one of the bands that he'd like to collaborate with, but I'm not going to say anything. Am I going to try to put together a Native American black metal tour? Sure.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
Fuck yeah. But yeah, one band you want to tour with, one band you want to drink with, one band you want to collaborate with.
Okay, tour with. Let's see, who would I want to tour with? I would definitely want to tour with Sargeist. And wait, is this question for like local bands or like bigger bands?
Any band, living, past, local, international, whatever you like, and it doesn't have to be just black metal either.
Oh wow! Now that you say that, okay, so tour with would definitely be Satanic Warmaster because, like I said, they're one of my biggest influences. Let's see. So, and then the other one would be to drink with. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't drink. I'm not much of a drinker. I'm straight edge, to be honest. Like that's another thing that I kind of brought into this black metal scene is, alcoholism is really kind of ruining the people and kind of taking over the Native American people out on the res, and they're dying off because of this epidemic of alcoholism. So I decided to take on the responsibility of actually being the sober native, the sober indigenous man, just to fight back the government and not give them that power over us. But as far as share some food with or share some fry bread with, I'll definitely say that. Man, so many bands that come to mind. I'd say definitely let's do. Man, that's what happens when you love so many bands. It's hard to choose one.
I know, like too many come up.
Yeah. I'll say there's a band called Warwolf, who is one of my friends, and to just sit down with him anytime is amazing because he has so many good views and so many good conversations to have. So I'll choose him as far as a sit down, and then collab with. I mean, I'm gonna have to go on my boy Blackberry for sure. Like that guy, I would love to just put together like a compilation or something and be like, you know what, pure indigenous Native American black metal, just representing the USBM scene for sure.
Fuck yeah. Well, hopefully that'll come to life one day. Like I said, it'd be badass to have like a proper
Definitely.
USBM but Native American focused tour, or just like a event or something like that, man. That would be fucking off
Definitely.
the chain. No, yeah, it's I knew you were gonna answer. Well, I had a feeling you'd answer that in terms of the drink part, and we should probably change that anyways, because to be fair, there's so many people now that actually in bands aren't drinking. So I think we might have to change that to like break bread with or some shit. But yeah,
break
no,
bread, share an Indian taco with. Let's go.
Fucking brilliant. Excellent. Okay, well, before we sort of end it, is there anything that the fans can do to support the band aside from obviously going on Bandcamp, depositing money directly into your wallet? Let's get those bank details out now, guys. Come on, guys. Got to support the bands.
That's what it's all about. Support. I'm going to say, just keep spreading the word. Just keep, listening on YouTube. Yeah, definitely, you can buy the merch, you can buy the CDs, but the biggest support is there to just word of mouth. If you can just spread the name, make it a name that everybody in black metal will speak of one day and be like, there's a great Native American band called Isataii, and just that alone for sure, like just to keep the spirit alive forever and possibly make a name as important and as influential as the European bands have had on the black metal scene of today, for sure.
Excellent. Couldn't have said it better. Lovely. Little Wolf, mate, thank you so much for doing this. Any last words for the listeners? Anything you'd like to say?
No, thank you for all the support. Thank you for all the good feedback. Thank you for the views. Thank you for listening. Without fans, any band is nothing. Beyond the money, beyond the fame, it's the fans. If it wasn't for the fans, you guys, I don't even know how you guys found out about us, but I'm pretty sure, and I'm hoping that it was through word of mouth. It was through some kind of fan telling you like, hey, check these guys out. Because without them, it's like no one would be anything without the listeners.
Just to mention that, it's weird because Spotify is actually quite shit when it comes to black metal in terms of finding bands and whatnot. But that is how we found it, how we found you guys. And I think it was actually through Pan American Native Front, I think is what I was listening to. And then it was basically like, oh, here's a suggestion.
No way.
So I mean, you might not get a lot of money from Spotify, but you might get some new listeners and influencers. Yeah,
definitely.
100%. Listen, we didn't break because I got too into this conversation, but we usually break halfway through to play some of your music. So why don't you tell us what sort of 2 songs you'd like us to play after this? So we're gonna blast it. We're gonna hook you up on Spotify and have people listen.
Oh, awesome! So for sure, there's Open Veins, and then there's another one called, what's that song called? There's a song. I want to give you a good one. I want to give you a good representation of.
I'm obsessed with It'll Be Over Forever, but that's just my personal taste. I don't want to put anything on you.
No, that's a good one. I won't even lie to you, honestly. So there's Open Veins, and let's do Malice, because I feel like Malice is very hateful and very, very war spirited. So definitely Malice and Open Veins for sure.
Awesome. So last little bit, any kind of shout outs you want to do, Little Wolf, any hi, how are yous and thank yous.
All right, so I want to send a shout out to Plague Demon Records and Blasphemous Creations from Hell Records, also Adirondack Black Mass Records and Cult of Odium, and just all of my family for all the support and all the fans for all the support they've been giving us as well. And for you guys as well for having us on here. I appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Excellent. So here it is. Isataii, Malice, and then Open Veins. Again, Little Wolf, mate, thank you so much for the interview. Appreciate you guys and all the listeners out there. Please support.
Thank you.